If you are looking for the cheapest used PC parts that money can buy, then today's video will hopefully help you out, where every month here at Tech City, we go looking for used bargains. So let's get those used PC parts hunting capes on and see what deals we can find. Never pay full price for Windows 10 or 11 again. With today's video sponsor SCD keys, you can get activated for as little as $15 using that coupon BFTYC. Links in description below. And we just finished up now at a place called Dospara. And this place is easily my favorite place in Japan to consistently get used deals, because I just think they do a lot of business here in a prefecture called Chiba. So they're one of the only enthusiast tech stores in this prefecture. So I just think they have constant amount of used parts coming in and going out. And the good thing was here is we got an RTX 3060 for about $210 US. So I'll put the yen pricing up on the screen as well as the USD pricing. But the weirdest thing was with this 3060 is, I swear on my video footage I took, the price was actually a little bit more expensive on the shelf, but then when they rung it up on the counter, it came in cheaper. So I'm not sure what was happening there, but the other graphics card we managed to get was also the RX 5500 XT. This is the 8GB model, so that's also a really good price, considering as well I get to check these GPUs out before I buy them, and on top of that, Dospara throw in a 1-week warranty. So that's always the icing on the cake with this store and buying used PC parts. They usually look like they're in really good condition, and they also give you that warranty on top. So really happy with those two deals. However, in terms of other deals there, none of the parts were at my strike prices. For instance, they had an RTX 2080 Super for just way more than I think even the market price is at. So it just seems like some parts can be wildly expensive, but then some parts can be really well priced. But speaking of well priced, this is a unique location where right next door there is a Junkparadise. So we're gonna quickly go check that out. So going into Junkparadise, we came out with one deal, although we potentially had two deals, where I saw a monitor going for around $20, but then they said there is no guarantee on it. And I said, well, can I see it working first? And they said, sure. And then they turned it on and it was smashed. This monitor was no good. I even said to them, I'm like, you know, guys, should you be selling that for even 20 bucks? It's a real sort of raw deal that someone's getting if they don't check it. So they were kind of like, yeah, they were kind of taken back too on the condition of this monitor. But the PC, there was a PC there with an i5 8400, 16GB of DDR4 memory. Even though it was mismatched sticks, it had a decent looking case and a GTX 1060 and also a decent looking motherboard, as well as a big cooler. This whole system was going for a shade over $200. Now I thought to myself, what if I can clean this up, because it looks like it is really dirty. And so we're going to clean this up, and it's finally the first time in a long time I have found a PC that just looks dirty, the price is right, I can clean this up, hopefully sell that GTX 1060, or even just clean the whole thing up and try and flip it. Or I can take the GPU out, put in, say, a RTX 3060 that we just picked up at Dospara next door. So I'm kind of excited because I haven't found a dirty PC in Japan until now that's worthwhile in terms of the price, but also in terms of cleaning up and extracting the most out of it. So with that aside, we are now going to go to a different location called Funabashi City. And we're gonna see some new stores that we've never seen before. So my fingers are crossed. I'm hoping there's going to be some more deals that unravel along the way. So now it's time to continue the used parts hunt journey, and we've got a new Junkparadise that's opened up in a city called Tsudunuma in the same prefecture. It's about a 25-minute drive. However, upon getting to this place, it was actually a lot smaller than the previous Junkparadise we had just picked up that PC from. And so looking around on the PC parts on the shelves here, they had an RTX 3060 and an RX 5700 that I kind of sat and pondered on, but I decided not to purchase in the end because even though the prices were decent, they just weren't convincing. And if you guys are looking for used PC parts, then you should always be looking for the best deal regardless. Don't give in to that temptation and overpay for something. This is a mistake that a lot of people make when they buy used parts, especially if they want to, say later on, resell those parts in a gaming PC. With that store pretty much being a bust, it's time to move on to our next destination, which is a place called 2nd Street. And I hold this place dear to my heart because I picked up the main microphone that I use on the channel here, the AT2035, for $30 when I got to Japan about a year ago. And I've also found some good little bargains at these stores from time to time. However, this time, as soon as I walked in, I saw the monitor prices, and this made me want to drop to the floor and pray to the used PC parts gods to give me something more. I'm always looking for that bargain, but unfortunately it wasn't going to happen at 2nd Street, and we had to continue the journey where this time around we're going to a place called Kanteidan, and this place just stocks a lot of different parts, like not just PC parts or tech products. They stock things like anime dolls, Pokemon cards, even things that you probably don't want your kids seeing. Though as I was looking through, they did have this all-in-one PC. It was an NEC LV770, and apparently this has an i7 inside. The i7 sticker caught my eye. However, looking at it closely online, it's actually an i7 3rd generation mobile chip with 8GB of DDR3 laptop memory. And the worst thing about this whole thing was they didn't guarantee it at all. It's 5,000 yen or about $35 US, and they would not even let me check it or show it working before they sold it. So basically, if you go into a junk store and there's junk written on that item and they're not going to let you check it, you are taking a big risk. However, after this stage in the parts hunt, I was down and out. We had checked out 3 new stores and came up completely empty-handed. It was time to go back to the studio, check for some online deals, but also on the way home, check out local hard-off, which is one of the very few hard-offs in Japan that I pick up decent deals from time to time. And this is of course where one would want to get a proverbial hard-on if the prices were good. And as I was looking around, I did notice a trend here, and that was that they are starting to slash prices. So things have been sitting on the shelves that long that good old hard-off is starting to say, we want to sell this stuff, we're going to drop the prices. And so I was looking around, I couldn't really find anything though, even with these price drops, that was worthy of purchasing, unfortunately. However, I did find a monitor right up the top, and all these monitors were pretty cheap, but a lot of them had junk written on them. Some of them had the things like they were showing lines through the screens, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is like the Junkparadise all over again. No one's going to want to buy a busted monitor, or at least a monitor with a broken LCD screen. However, we did find one monitor that was a 1080p 24-inch, and they said that it works fine. It's just they're not going to guarantee it. So I just took it to the counter, and just like Junkparadise, I said to them, look, before I buy this, can you guys just show me it working? So I'm happy to buy that for 4,000 yen, and that's about $27.60 US. So now we're back at the Tech Yes studio here, and you can probably see I've got a big smile on my face because I finished testing out this 3060 and it works really well. And there's also extra headroom on the core clock slider for the default voltage as well as the GDDR6 memory, which means that this card should have a bit of life left in it, actually quite a long amount of life left in it, which is really good. Then we also got onto testing this RX 5500 XT. Initially, I was pretty shocked. I was like, whoa, this thing doesn't work properly, I'm gonna have to return it. But then the driver installed and everything went fine. I don't know if you guys have ever come into a older, say faulty R9 290 or something like that, sometimes the basic mode can work, but when the driver installs, the card doesn't work. And so that's going from base mode to then normal mode. But in this case, it's almost like the base mode doesn't work, but then the normal mode works. And I've never seen that on a card before, but at least it games and at least it works properly. So that's all I'm happy about. I actually went a step further and played some games quickly on it just to test that it doesn't crash out or reset or the fans aren't working properly or anything like that. But I'm happy to report this card and also the RTX 3060 are working absolutely fine, and especially considering the prices that we paid for them at $212. I actually just tallied up and converting the Japanese yen into USD, $212, and then $75 for the 5500 XT. I thought I paid a little bit less, but $75 is still pretty okay for this 5500 XT. Though behind that, we've got a PC that we got for $206. That's what we paid for this with the i5-8400, 16 gigabytes of mismatched DDR4 memory and the GTX 1060. Now it's also got a 256 gigabyte SSD and a 2 terabyte hard drive. So I did forget to mention that. But also the case, all the fans light up. There's no noisy fans. It's just a bit dirty, and that's something I'm also really happy about. I finally found a place that's selling dirty PCs, and I can clean them up and extract what I feel is going to be even more value. However, checking out the power supply on this system at the back did show that it's just a no-name unit, and it looks like it's only got a single 8-pin PCIe connector there. So what I'm going to do there is actually probably just keep the whole system as is and clean it all up and then reflip it and perhaps try and make a little tidy profit there. But in terms of maybe adding in a different graphics card, if you guys think I should, then I'm all ears to that as well. Let us know in the comments. And then we've got that monitor. Like we said in the voiceover, it works absolutely fine. The junk components, do be careful when you are buying junk in Japan. But here's where the news gets even better, where I scanned online up and down for Ryzen 7, Ryzen 5, B550 motherboards, B350, X470, X570, you name it, I'm looking for what used bargains could arise here at Tech City when I'm looking for those cheap parts. And what we ended up finding in the end was actually an RTX 2080 Super for $200 flat. And I thought, wow, that looks like a really good price. Check the auction and it was working. The guy says the card works absolutely fine. And if you buy off Mail Cuddy, in Japan they call it Mail Cuddy, I don't know if it's called Mercuddy in some other places in the world. If you buy off this platform, you get a few days to confirm that the parts are working and it's what the seller says it is. So basically that platform will escrow the funds and they'll hold them until you say, yep, this part works, or until the time runs out, and then they'll hand the seller the money. So if there's a problem with the parts, you can then say to Mail Cuddy, like, hey, there's a problem here, I want to send this back, and show them it doesn't work with a photo, and then you get your money back. So that's always a good guarantee. In that case, sellers can't really be dishonest on that platform. It's kind of like eBay. eBay have good online protection. However, of course, there are fees to these platforms, which if you're picking up locally, you can get that better deal. But that was the first deal that we scored there. I did check other graphics cards like RTX 3060s and 3060 Ti's and stuff like that. They were not really going for really good prices online. And so the 2080 Super looked like it was the best deal to snag up. I did check RX 5600 XTs as well. I've got my eye out on them, 5700 XTs, 6000 series cards. However, the final deal of the month here did come up when I was just curious. I always just look for X99, X299. I just see if people are selling mainly motherboard, RAM, and CPU sets. But then I was looking for the Broadwell i7s. You guys told me to check out the Broadwell X99, that's the 6000 series i7s. And this is where we saw an i7-6950X, which is actually a 10-core, 20-threaded ring bus HEDT platform CPU from Intel before they went over the mesh. I think this is actually the CPU right before they went to that 7000 series mesh architecture. So it's ring bus, it's the good stuff, and it's coming in even better with the price, $96.70. So Ichiman Yon-sen. So I really was happy with that. Of course, it's got to come in still just like the 2080 Super. Got to check out if it works. But all those parts in a nutshell, I'll put the tally up here for you guys here today. where we're coming in with $817, and that's USD. The US dollar is currently getting a bit stronger against the Japanese yen. I think it's getting stronger against the Aussie dollar and stuff too. Like, it's just getting stronger against everything. And that's making it so that parts are getting a lot cheaper in terms of USD. So if you've got some of those greenbacks saved up, you can definitely snag a good deal on used bargains. Though here's where we're going to segue now into the outlook, the market right now, and especially coming off the back of that RTX 4060 review, the market I was hoping would get shaken up, but it's still going to take some time to see that play out, because I was talking to the guy at Dospara. I was like, do you have any 4060s in stock, and what's their prices like brand new? I was really curious to check out what the prices would be coming in on this in terms of brand new. And here's where they said they hadn't got them in stock yet. They haven't even listed it on their website. And he expects the cheapest one here to come in around that 300 USD price point. So I'm hoping that that puts a lot of pressure on the used graphics cards, and you'll see those consistent $200 and $210 RTX 3060. And so if you get one of these cards for this price, you're not only going to be getting a great gaming experience, you're also going to be getting a great stretching of the dollar, which is what it's all about with these used parts here in today's tally. So do let us know in the comment section below, what was your favorite deal of the month here? I'm actually looking forward to that 2080 Super actually, because I want to compare it directly against the 3060 as well as the 4060. And hopefully you guys will want to see that comparison too. The final things we'll talk about now is the outlook. You guys always like to know what the outlook is on used prices as well as the market in general. And I think we're seeing such a hammer down on the new prices. If we look at CPU prices, I was actually kind of shocked when I saw how low the 5800X3D is going. I'm seeing how low the 5700X is going. These CPUs are just coming so hard and so fast down in price that that's going to put pressure on the CPU market, like that i7-6950X we just picked up. That's the kind of deals that I want to see become more abundant. And I think we're going to see, especially if we look at CPUs, more of those deals popping up as the sellers, if they've been sitting on higher prices, they see those prices of new, they're going to react and go, okay, well, I better get rid of it now because it's only going to get even cheaper perhaps. And so that's something that's going to be going through a lot of used sellers when they're selling PC parts. And this goes actually the same for selling gaming PCs as well. If you're in the market for a gaming PC, you're going to be getting some of the best value for money right at this point in time, because something that I spoke about in the previous 4060 review was the M2 money supply, and that's actually corrected on the way up now, which is very dangerous because it's corrected up quite significantly too in 1 month. So if that keeps going up, that means we are going to see a return to inflation, regardless of what anyone tells you with all these fancy economic terms of push-pull inflation and whatever. Bottom line is when there's more money circulating in an economy, especially for the same amount of goods and the same amount of people in that economy, prices just go up. Though we're going on to the GPU market, here's where we saw that 299 on the 4060, and that's putting pressure on the GPU market. People will want to go out and buy the latest stuff, especially when they just go look at some charts. They see the 4060s faster than the 3060. They're going to go look at that and go, well, I'm going to get rid of my 2060, or I'm going to get rid of my 1060. I'm going to get rid of whatever card they've got. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on the used market too, especially just like the CPUs. If people have been sitting on GPUs at higher prices, they're going to want to let them go, and people are only prepared to pay so much for them now that they know that the 4060 exists. So that card at 299, even though I wanted it around 270, I thought that would have just put, believe it or not, even just $30, it would have just put so much pressure on the market in general. And what we've got to understand about NVIDIA cards is why they're so significant is because 84% or something dedicated GPUs of total market share is with NVIDIA versus AMD and Intel. So that's just huge. Those numbers are massive. So you've got to look at what the NVIDIA cards are doing on the market. And so that 4060 at 299, I know it's not the best. And hopefully that does put more pressure on the used market in terms of GPUs, but also more pressure on, say, the RX 6000 series cards, RX 6700 and 6700 XT being a real big focus where they're offering really good value, as well as the 3060 Ti, that's offering extremely good value too if it's coming at the same price point as the 4060. So there's a lot of options right now, but do keep in mind just that bump in M2 money supply does concern me. And that's one thing I've always said here at Tech City. Be on alert, guys. Be ready to react, because as we saw with that in 2020 and 2021, what happened to the whole PC market in general, there was a lot going on there. Prices tripled because of all the insane amount of money printing that was going on. So that is something to always be aware of. There could be, next month, the government could just start stimulating the economy again. We need to stimulate the economy, guys. And then all of a sudden it's a rush to go get a new graphics card. Anyway, guys, that's about it for this month's parts hunt. I hope you guys enjoyed the lengthy conversation we had here. Another thing is too, I am getting a lot of messages from people, other PC sellers. I'm yet to basically collect a lot of PC parts and go back to Australia and do a mad flipping session. But in the meantime, a lot of people are telling me it's just so hard to move PCs. Now, in your market, if it's getting really hard to move PCs, just know that there's a huge difference, at least from what I'm researching right now. There's a huge difference in financial assets and the real economy. The two are almost been severed in two, where a lot of that is because, from what I'm hearing, the Chinese, where they get their GDP surpluses and they're basically getting really rich, they're not buying a lot of what the US and Australia and the UK, for instance, have to sell in terms of GDP, services, in terms of products and services. They're just buying financial assets overseas. That's all they're doing. This is putting a lot of pressure on things like homes, and also land, and also factories and things like that are actually required to keep an economy really healthy. They're just jacking the prices of those up. And so that's causing a lot of problems where a lot of things are getting cheaper because the Chinese yuan as well, they're artificially keeping that devalued against a lot of other currencies. I think basically the yuan has not appreciated in over 30 years. So there's a lot going on there in terms of the real economy being, even though they say GDP is picking up, it's not picking up. Though there's a lot more to this conversation. I probably would have to make a separate video on it because it can go pretty deep. If you guys want to see that, do let us know in the comments. In the meantime, love reading your thoughts and opinions as always, just like this question of the day here, which comes from Speeding80, and they ask, where would the 1080 Ti be in that comparison? So they're referring to our previous video on the 4060, where I believe off the top of my head, the 1080 Ti should be right around the 3060. Last time I tested it, it was performing a little bit ahead, but I think like driver maturation since that time would put it right around the 3060. I will have to get a 1080 Ti and test, however, but that's where you can think of the 1080 Ti. It's right around the 3060. So hopefully that answers that question. And with that aside, if you guys have stayed this far and you're enjoying that Tech Yes content as always, be sure to hit that like button and ring that bell after you hit the sub button to get the content as soon as it drops. And I will catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.